Might it look like when someone begins to rebuild that trust and inner knowing?
Yeah, I think it's innate to us. So it's almost like it's always on. We just sometimes choose to turn it off because of what we're told. Society, religion, school, the media, everything teaches us to conform and not pay attention to what's really happening. So when we do turn our, I'm going to call it our soul voice up again,
I like that.
yeah, a lot of things can, I mean, our whole lives can change because suddenly we're actually in the stream of how things really are instead of this stream of projections and what society is telling us. So it can be a radical shift in everything in a person's life when they open up to that.
Enjoy this Wild Soul Gathering production. I'm Dr. Sandra Marie. Pour yourself a really tall glass of spiritual curiosity and join me for the Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious podcast. In the spirit of happy hour, cheers to some new insights, peace, revitalization, and perhaps an aha moment that may change your life. Welcome back, everyone. It's time to get ready for our last session of the day. The Mystic System Intuition is a Source of Safety, where we will explore intuition, spiritual perception, and the nervous system, and how inner knowing can become a source of clarity and stability during these times of change. Sara Wiseman is joining us for this conversation. She is a longtime spiritual teacher, an author, the founder of Intuition University, where she has helped thousands of people around the world recognize and develop and trust their intuitive spiritual abilities. Her work spans intuition, channeling, and spiritual guidance. Welcome, Sarah.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and to see you again.
Yeah, it has been a while. It's great to have you back.
Yeah.
Sarah, many people have been taught to doubt their inner knowing. For someone who has had long-term disconnection from their inner knowing, do you think that can affect their sense of trust, stability, and clarity over time?
Yeah, I think that society sort of teaches us that inner knowing is not what we should follow. And in fact, society is completely wrong, and inner knowing is like the only thing we should follow. So it can really play havoc on everything in a person's life to sort of tune that part out.
I feel like society's wrong about a lot of things, but that would be a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
What might it look like when someone begins to rebuild that trust and inner knowing after years of disconnection? Do you think that people can get it back?
Oh, yeah. I think it's innate to us. So it's almost like it's always on. We just sometimes choose to turn it off because of what we're told. Society, religion, school, the media, everything teaches us to conform and not pay attention to what's really happening. So when we do turn our, I'm going to call it our soul voice up again.
I like that.
Yeah, a lot of things can, I mean, our whole lives can change because suddenly we're actually in the stream of how things really are instead of this stream of projections and what society is telling us. So it can be a radical shift in everything in a person's life when they open up to that.
Well, there seems to be a lot of focus, I would say, on the soul voice, the intuition these days. So I think that there's either more of a hypersensitivity to it or people are developing more of an awareness. But on the other end of the spectrum, for people who are deeply connected to their inner knowing, what kind of cognitive or mental load comes with that constant interpreting of all that information?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and like that could be hours and hours of discussion. But you know the the piece is like people that are tuned in, we'll call, which is could be everyone, but people that choose to be tuned in. Then you've got all the information coming in from all different aspects, not just the brain or not just the thoughts. And so it can take a while to get used to, what's coming in from nature, what's coming in from animals, what's coming in from my sense or, my physical sense when I'm around others, what's coming in from my dreams. Sort of like we expand our ability to gather information when we're tuning into that intuitive side. So at the beginning, there can be this sort of oversensitivity, like we just want to hide in the cave, like make it stop. But after a while, we get to kind of sense the through line, like we get to understand what needs to be paid attention to when and what can be disregarded or is a neutral information as opposed to what is asking to be followed.
Okay, it's really sort of a process, trial and error maybe to help it be more sustainable rather than something that ends up being really draining.
Yeah, and it's a process of getting kind of accepting the fact that the world tells us we can only know what comes in through, say, our thoughts, what comes in through our phones or the news stream. That's all we should pay attention to. And when we look at the broader information, when we start to trust that that is just as valid, if not much more valid than what we're being told. It's almost like we're shifting from, one tiny little stream of thought to this whole expanded awareness of everything all the time. Yeah, we just get used to it. We just understand that that's how things really are. And there's a lot of relaxation in understanding what is as opposed to the falseness of what we're told.
Okay, so that's interesting. So I'm curious because as I was thinking about it, so with the heightened intuitive, the psychic abilities, does that place a unique demand on the nervous system?
Yeah, well, again, that first sense of maybe particularly being overloaded until you sort of begin to navigate how to choose what parts of the information you want to follow. And then the other piece is often intuition will come in and will tell us what we perhaps think we don't want to know. And so that creates quite a schism between we receive, we know, we feel, we sense it's true, and then we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Or, for example, somebody like a, a relationship isn't working or a job isn't working. And we really are attached to these ideas of, I want the relationship or I want the job. That creates a lot of tension when what's real and what we think we want to happen are in conflict. So the relaxation part comes from when you allow yourself, it's, to non attach to what you think you want and just to allow yourself to be carried in flow to what's really happening. And the minute you kind of can crack that code, not simple, but over time we can mature into that, everything just completely relaxes. We don't have to worry. We're always being guided, which is kind of remarkable.
It is remarkable. So that makes sense. So you either go down the supportive versus the dysregulating path in the beginning. And as you start to figure it out more, because all that information coming in has more of a clarity and truth to it versus the TV.
Yeah.
So even though it may not be what we want to do, because I feel like we've all been in that place where the clarity's there for us and we resist it. And, sometimes we just don't make it so easy.
Yeah. I think people have lots of reasons. Like sometimes I'll use intuition, I'll use the term like direct knowing. We have lots of reasons for resisting that kind of direct knowing. And like, say it's a job, you should quit a certain job. It's so you're dreaming about it every night. Every sign and synchronicity is coming in. It's so clear, and yet you're like, but I need the money, or I'm
Yeah.
1 year from retire. Whatever your thing is that your mind is telling you, and yet it may be that the bigger forces at play are saying, no, no, it's just time now. It's just time now, and so that tension of being in conflict with what is the direct knowing, and then eventually the relaxation when we follow where the universe is trying to take us is pretty interesting. I do think there's another point, especially at the almost like the beginning of the journey. Like a lot of times people will wake up have a psychic or spiritual awakening and have this onslaught of information start to come in. And there is some tension or confusion at that stage when it's like you've just opened up so much, all this information is coming in that you've never dealt with before. And there is some time to sort of learn how to navigate that. That can be not very relaxing. But once you've sort of understood how to get there, things get much easier. But I would say that the main piece of it's not that being intuitive or having direct knowing is particularly relaxing in itself. It's that it provides the information on where to take the next step in your path. And that's what's relaxing.
Okay,
That's
that
what
makes
helps
sense.
us. Yeah, that's what helps us like, we just surrender.
Okay,
We just
because it feels
surrender.
like it could create a little bit of anxiety or overstimulation and
Yeah.
almost, some self-doubt at times with it, but that makes sense when you say that it gives you that peace.
Yeah. And
Mm.
there's the tremendous amount of misinformation on intuition and the entire metaphysical reality is just, that also creates a lot of stress when we're following down these rabbit holes of all these things that aren't even real or that are super commercialized. And it's really, you have to have your personal meditation or your personal stillness. You have to have direct connection. You can't just read about it or follow it on YouTube. You have to do the practice yourself in order to have any kind of movement on that path.
Okay, so that takes me into an area that getting to be more and more passionate about, and that's the $10 billion or so spiritual industry that's out there. So you talked about the misinformation that's out there. Could you just elaborate on that a little bit more and how people can be just maybe some tips on being a little more discerning with it?
Well, anything that's super commercialized, I would just definitely, definitely avoid. Anything that's promising money or power or love, eh, I would just not believe it. Anything that's promising manifesting or magic, we're here as awareness. We're meant to live in awareness. And potentially the better thing than looking at any of that is to just step outside and breathe the air and sort of be in your body and call that good. That is where more intuitive awareness is going to come than from any, you know,
I would say
big
that
thing.
that's been an overarching message that's come out with the summit over the last
Yeah.
2 days, and I expect that to be a thread that continues through tomorrow for sure. So that's
Yeah.
fascinating that you have gone right down that same path, and obviously that doesn't cost any money. It's just something that's available to anyone, and anyone can do if they make the choice. I think that, you know, we've talked a lot, especially today, that it's simple. And I think because it's so simple, people think this can't possibly be the right answer because we've come from these Western cultures where everything takes work and you have to work hard and you have to pay money and it has to have some kind of value to it, that the true answer is getting overlooked.
Yeah. I think, yes, I completely agree. And sometimes I'll get clients coming and they'll be like, oh, I think I'm going to take this, massively expensive many year program of training because I want to increase my intuitive skills or my metaphysical understanding. And I will say, go outside, bring your jacket if it's snowing or whatever, and just have this stillness. And they would prefer to have all of the hardship of doing this long, long journey rather than being with their inner self for a few moments. It's like it's harder to allow that level of surrender to the consciousness around us than it is to go in the Western system or actually the Eastern system too. It's like these older hierarchical systems that, if you don't do the suffering, you can't have the experience. And
Yes.
There's no suffering is involved or no suffering is needed with this direct knowing.
Yeah, I mean that I would agree with that. When I was in Tibet, there was some type of holiday where people were crawling on the streets and really bringing on a lot of pain to themselves as part of their offering to evolve. So
Mm.
that's important that it's not just the Western culture. I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
Can you tell if intuition is getting filtered through fear, past experience, or projection? Like,
Oh,
sometimes I feel like it gets mucked up in there sometimes.
yeah. I think that when we have a strong attachment to how we think things should be, like say this job idea that we've been kind of discussing. So I work plenty in clairvoyance, so looking in visuals in the mind's eye. And so what I find is that when I really want something and the universe is saying, nah, that's not how it's going to be, I'll I'll have the image, like I'll strive to put up the picture in my mind of how I want it to be. And I'll even have this sensation of, the picture will just pop away. Like I'll keep trying to put it up there and it'll just keep popping down. And once that happens a few times at this point, I'm like, well, I'm heading in the wrong direction. Or another way, intuition, like in terms of synchronicities or events that might happen, when we keep pushing and pushing and pushing and nothing keeps working, it's again the universe sort of pushing us away, saying, I'm sorry, my friend, wrong path. We have something different in mind for you. So so we can start to tell like what's not working. Like if it continues to not work, the universe is saying, choose a different direction. There's a different path for you. And paying attention to where like I use that word, the flow is happening, where there's no resistance, where it's very easy.
It's interesting, the simplicity, awareness, 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 that's been another big thread of the
Mhm.
last couple of days with the summit is really developing that self-awareness to understand yourself and where things are moving. So you've mentioned the flow a couple of times, and I know that we've had a past discussion. I feel like this topic comes up all the time. With manifestation is sort of like gone by the wayside. It's old technology. And you had talked about the flow. And since I have you here today, because I've been pondering this a little bit, more recently, I was reading something of yours and, you were talking about the manifestation and the flow process. And, the problem is we're all manifesting, so to speak, but it's all conflicting, right? So there's all these
Mhm.
individual conflicting manifestations. How does that work? And it's time as we're coming together and, we're evolving more that we really start focusing on manifesting and getting into a flow as a one.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that like just so resonated. I'm like, yes, this is it. This makes sense. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that word, old technology. So, I think we used to say, "I will manifest, I will create," or we used to say, "I co-create with the universe." And that used to be as if it's us and this being, this Santa-like being, the universe that was gonna, give us our wishes. But what we have to realize is that I co-create with the universe, it means I co-create with collective soul. And that means, just as you said, everybody has their desire, their attachment. And so as we evolve, hopefully our attachments drop away. We are co-creating at a higher level as a collective, and this is how we're moving forward. Yeah, old way of manifesting can work, but it's going to bring you what your mind wants. It's not going to bring you what's really going to take you further. It's better to follow as you're being led.
That's such a good differentiation that it does bring what the mind wants, but it's missing out the whole heart and the flow, which is the whole point of all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the last piece for me that I wanted to mention is intuition. It's not just with other humans, it's with nature, it's with animals, it's with plants, it's with inanimate things, it's with everything. And so this awareness is not just human to human, that's just a tiny piece of what we're connected to.
So I'd like to expand on that a little bit because I think that there is that awareness is sort of seeping out to the mainstream a little bit. And I have a really good friend who's super connected with nature, and nature really speaks to her in literally conversations. And I
Mm.
remember someone was telling me, like, if you really had a question that was on your mind that you were, I hate the word struggle, but that's what's coming to top of mind right now, but it was on your mind and you're trying to figure it all out, that, go out, take a walk, get into nature, and just put your hand on the tree and
Mhm,
ask the tree the question, and the
mhm.
tree will give you the answer. So when she's out there, her level of communication and what she's receiving back, that back and forth is so much different than my experience with it. Can you just talk a little bit more
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, and I mean, for some people, the tree might answer in a voice, potentially, but for most people, when we touch the tree, we are immediately sent into this it's almost like we match the vibrational essence of the tree, we're sent into the deep relaxation of the tree, and whenever we deeply relax, and I don't mean we're in trance state, we're just like we're fully present, then everything becomes clear. So it's not necessarily that the tree is talking to your friend, although that might be, but it's the tree gives us the breath or the pause of awareness that lets the clarity just come instantly. Yeah. So, and I wouldn't necessarily expect the tree, like sometimes you'll go to a tree and ask, and you can hear the shimmer of the wind suddenly, and it's like, oh, it's so exciting. But sometimes it's just that relaxation awareness comes through and the clarity that we've always known, but that our mind has been distracting us from just suddenly has a chance to come through.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. I think that, with the animals and stuff, that's sort of a give me.
Mhm,
But when you start getting into, like, I've got a big thing with rocks and big rocks and
mhm,
boulders, and they
mhm.
give off a lot of energy. They pull me to them, and, they help me.
Well,
So
see, and that's, yeah, I think it's so different because I would say I'm very plant oriented. And for me, crystals and rocks, I'm not going to say meh, that's not true, but I just don't feel the same.
right.
So each person is structured a little bit differently as to what they're going to resonate with. And that's no problem. That's perfect that we can all sort of choose what is. It's all available to us, all of awareness.
So it's just recognizing it.
Yeah, your particular style almost.
That makes sense. Lots going on in the world and a lot going on individually in people's lives. So when we get into the intuition conversation, is it possible for people to get so sucked into that their intuition really sort of dials down or can get turned off when you're experiencing a lot of change and stress?
Yeah, like at the time of this recording, we're just a couple weeks away from a really big astrological timing on February 17th. And so I've been reading a bit about that and thinking about it, and I kind of have the choice to really get my mind. I mean, some of this is choice. Where are we going to go with our mind, or are we going to go with
Mm.
the deeper stillness? And so I like to look at my life as a continuation or continuum of many lifetimes. And so I don't need to worry as much about current events because, oh, I did that in the 1300s, or, oh, I did that in the 1700s. Like we've already been through the ringer quite a few times. And so that awareness, that helps me. It's just like, it's not our first rodeo. And also the fact that whenever there is challenge at this level, that's when we are learning the most, like as a group. And so we are accelerated learning right now, even though it seems like accelerated suffering. That's,
When
yeah.
when you said that, I thought, well, it feels like we're, like, stepping into the capstone course is right around the corner.
That
Yeah, well, I actually think we've kind of been in it, actually. That's kinda
yeah,
I've actually think the last 10 years we've been in it. We just
okay.
didn't know we signed up for it. Like, how did I sign up for that course? What was I thinking? Why did I take that on? Yeah.
Yes, I've had that "what was I thinking"
Yeah.
thought and comments a couple of times.
Yeah.
With your unique abilities, I have some curiosities, so I'm gonna ask you. I know that you work with a lot of different forms of guidance over time, including the archangelic energies, and more recently, you've been working with some off-planet intelligences, which I think sort of surprised you that they showed up. I'm not really sure. But do you notice a difference in your body and how your body systems and how you respond with these different energies and
Hmm.
energetics when you're working with them?
Huh, oh, that's fascinating. I am not like, I don't think this is good or bad. I'm not particularly somatic, really. I'm much more clairvoyant and clairaudient. My receiving is more like the upper chakras versus a lot of people are super somatic, which is amazing. So I think when I'm in a channeling state, I'm so focused on getting the language through because that's a challenge. It's a challenge to have another being not exactly talking, but like it's a challenge to hear it and put it into language that is not just heard, but it also comes through your fingers. And so I'm kind of just like, please let me be able to do this. Like it's just it's almost just like I don't know, like playing the piano really intensely. It's just like I'm just really paying attention to that process. I don't even know what my body feels like in those
Okay.
times, I would guess.
I just, when I think about it, I was wondering that, and I thought it just seems like it would affect your nervous system somehow because
Mhm.
their energies have to be so different.
Well, I do notice as on my podcast lately, I've been teaching some of the channel writing, and I do notice when I read it out aloud, I feel remarkably relaxed. It's like, oh, I just got sustained. Like when I read it out loud, one, I can't even believe that I channeled it. That's a surprise to me. And then as I read it, a deeper meaning comes through and I feel amazing. Like it's just a delight. And I feel so good and whole. I feel so whole when I read that aloud. So that is a piece about what is coming, like, the old, like a spell or a mantra. It's like coming through with that extra level of healing, I guess.
Okay.
Healing.
So it's almost like that blissful feeling sometimes you can get when you do energy work. So maybe not to that degree, but it just leaves you with that good feeling.
Yeah, this feeling of being super grounded and also absolute clarity and absolute like wholeness. I just feel that when I read it out loud.
Okay,
Yeah.
clarity's been coming up a lot lately. Well, so that's interesting that you said that it helps you feel more grounded because I was going to ask you with all of that's happening on the psychic level with you, what is your grounding practice? And do you have a self-care practice with this or you just sort of go with the flow?
Uh, well, so some people know, like I live with Dr. Steve, who was on your show. So he's
Yeah.
my basic grounding. He's a very grounded person. So that stability of personality is nice. But my grounding is really probably going for walks in nature. That is the physical thing that I do most days. And then my other grounding is meditation. So I just try and I just try and live a life that is pretty simple. It's not very social. It's pretty isolated. And I try very hard to stay out of drama or, the various many issues that, consternation, drama, agitation. I just kind of try and opt out from all of that if I can. But I would say that the physical piece is going for these long walks in nature and going to bed really early. Just like that's what I just like.
No,
So,
yeah, no, I can actually relate to it. I feel like the more we're evolving, the more alone, so
Mhm,
alone's not the right word, because alone has a negative connotation for us. The more we like to be with ourselves,
mhm.
like less stimulation, that outer stimulation, and being out by our alone by ourselves really does seem to make a difference. And the more I'm talking to people and I'm watching them evolve and excel on their path, the more they're telling me that a lot of different things in their life are shifting, where they're spending more time alone. They're,
Mhm.
removing different stimuli from their life. So that actually makes sense to me.
Yeah, and even if it's, say, family or friends or social, like, if it's not answering like, if you're really working on your inner self and, say, a friend group, I don't know, they're still going out to the bars, partying, and so those interactions, again, are not gonna be, uh, resonating, and so you won't take as much joy or you might find it difficult to even be around people that aren't on the path. And as you know, like there's fewer people on the path at this point than there are kind of in the more mainstream. It's not a
Mhm.
fault. And so there are maybe fewer sensitives that you're going to run in on a day to day. And it doesn't make sense to be in the mainstream because there's no answer there for me anyway. And so you just want to be with the universe. You just want to be with your soul self as part of consciousness, and the rest seems to not be important.
One of the things I think that you're involved in that you really don't talk much about, or I don't know that I've really heard you talk about, to be honest. So you have sent out a free meditative music set, I think a month or so ago, that was very beautiful, and I love it. So you're involved in music, and actually,
Mm,
I know that you
mhm.
sing and you've won some awards for your music. What role does music play in this, and how do they interconnect with all these other abilities that you have?
Well, music is really powerful. And so I sing mostly, and I haven't sung for quite some time. And I am going to sing pretty soon on a recording, actually. And I'm kind of gearing myself up for that. It's not really for the voice, which is pretty easy. It's for so this is so interesting. It's what happens somatically in the body because it just
Mhm.
blows me away. And I'm like, well, that's going to be something to get through to have all that opening as the voice comes through. I used to do a lot of ecstatic dance, and it was similar that through the body, this complete expression, but it's not as personal as singing for some reason. The singing brings something different through. So I find it actually kind of challenging to allow myself to go into that space of letting that somatically come through. And now I'm getting really nervous. No, no, I'm not. I'm just like, oh, yeah, that's going to happen. So, like, I'll deal with it when it happens, but realizing it's a physical somatic process, singing, dancing. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you
Yeah.
being open and sharing about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably why I don't do it all the time because it is a lot. Yeah,
So I'm gonna
or
ask.
it's also oh, sorry. No, I
No,
mean,
no,
that's
no, go
also
ahead,
why
finish. No, you
yeah,
finish your thought. I'm
that's
not gonna
also
let you off the hook with it. Not.
that's also why I don't, I can do hands healing, I can do energy healing, but I find it so intense. That's not my usual practice. I just find the intensity is hard to manage because so much comes through. And that might change later, but for now, that's where I'm at.
Okay. I actually can see that because when the energy gets flowing, and if you're that open, I could see where it could get intense. Just with, I know with what my personal experience is when I'm doing energy healing, I was like, wow, if you take that and you multiply it, that could get pretty intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sarah, as we're looking to wind up a little bit here, I do have a question. Looking back over your years of teaching and experience, because you have made a difference in so many lives for such a long time, how has your relationship with the intuition changed in terms of like the ease and trust and steadiness?
Yeah, thank you. At the beginning, I was really interested in psychic gifts and learning how to use all those. I wanted to be psychic, like I wanted to be a psychic. I wanted to do readings. And now, and it's been almost, it's been over, I think it's been over 20 years now. I don't know, even know, but now I'm really interested in spiritual understanding. And they used to give me this phrase, the psychic path leads to spiritual understanding, the spiritual path leads to psychic opening. And that was kind of one of those early phrases that I got. And I understand that more even now. Like right now, I'm much more on the spiritual awareness versus the psychic stuff are just tools for me to get to
Okay.
more awareness, is kind of where I'm at now.
Okay, that makes sense. Any little tidbits that you'd like to leave for people who are working on their
Um,
intuition?
yeah, I think really just trusting that it's innate. All you have to do is open to it and kind of also the universe is a very friendly, you can almost treat the universe like a friendly friend that's showing you how. You could say to the universe, "Hey, show me what to do." And you will be met. Like you can trust that that's a good partner to practice with as you're practicing your opening.
Right. I think that that's a perfect way to end on. The other piece to it is you just have to accept that you might not hear something that you want, but you have
Yeah.
to trust that it's really what you do want.
Yeah, it's what your soul is really craving and knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you for sharing your experience so generously today. To learn more about Sarah and her work, you can go to her website, sarawiseman.com. So good to reconnect again.
Oh, yeah, you too. Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe to the podcast and follow us on YouTube. And if you'd like to explore these topics more deeply, visit wildsoulsgathering.com, where you'll find free resources and guided practices designed to support your own journey of curiosity, healing, and personal growth. This is Dr. Sandra Marie, sending each of you peace and love.